So I'm here at CanJam New York 2026. A big thanks to Bloom Audio for making this possible. They were involved with helping my trip and sponsoring me to come out here, and they didn't even ask for any particular coverage. So massive thanks to them. While I'm talking to them, Bloom Audio carries a huge variety of products. Their room was one of the busiest on Saturday. I couldn't even get in there to film, so we got some B-roll of the room just to kind of see the layout. So if you haven't gone to a CanJam before, you can kind of see what it's all about. So big thanks to them again. If you're shopping for IEMs, DACs, headphones, amps, take a look at their websites. They just carry a lot of good stuff, and frankly, they're really cool people. So if you ever come to one of these shows, be sure to stop by and say hello. Now, outside of the Bloom Audio room, there are a lot of things that I was excited to try out. So some things were either brand new and just came out and I haven't tried them before, or some stuff's been out for a little bit and I just couldn't play with it and see it myself. So I just wanted to share some standouts that I personally enjoyed and am excited to talk about, whether it be now or in some future reviews. So let's dive into the first one. All right, so the first thing that we saw when we walked in is the Odyssey booth that's right behind me, because behind the camera is the actual entrance to the show. And Odyssey just announced the new LCD 5S, which upon picking up, I was shocked at how much lighter it was. My most used Odyssey headphone is the LCD X 2021 edition. Really love that headphone, and this is quite a different presentation. Still has a lot of good sub bass and extension, but everything sounds just a little bit softer and more relaxed. This is not the headphone to chase if you're looking for hyper analytical, super resolving. You do get a lot of clarity to it, but it does it in a very relaxed, kind of subdued way. Now, the show's obviously a bit loud and we're near the entrance, so listening to an open back critically, you're not going to get the best feedback here at the show. So I might review this more in detail down the road, but it's just something exciting from Odyssey because it's the new flagship. It'll be the talk of the town. So maybe more on this on the channel, but definitely keep an eye out for other reviews as they start coming out. Surprisingly, one of the things I was most excited about was one of the least expensive things I saw at the show, and this is the OP22 from Opus X. What's interesting about this guy is it's $35 and it has a good sound signature out of the box. However, instead of adjusting the nozzle or flipping dip switches, there's a rotatable disc on the outside of the faceplate to change the bass profile. And one of the coolest things is I can actually adjust it while I'm wearing it. I don't have to take it off and mess with tools and possibly lose something on the go. So if you don't have the flexibility of EQ, or you just don't like messing with that stuff and you want something fun to listen to, this was really comfortable, the good cable out of the box. I think this is going to be a hot seller this year. And then we have the FiiO EH13, which I thought was a $100 headphone, and that to me would have been a good value either way because it has onboard parametric EQ, active noise cancellation, pretty good sound quality, and even a 45-hour battery. So it's a lot of stuff that people are looking for from a travel perspective. It's only 50 bucks to have all of those features, and the ANC performance is quite good. So I messed with the app a little bit, I listened to it, and I think taking advantage of the parametric EQ is really going to stretch its performance and get the most out of your investment. Out of the box tuning, from what I heard, it's very bass forward and a little bit darker sounding. So if you're chasing that clarity, luckily FiiO gives you the option to customize it. But it is really comfortable, and overall I think they're onto something really good. So I will be talking about this in a future video for sure once I get my hands on it. More to come. So this is completely different than a lot of things I've heard. This is the Genesis one from a company called Lily Audio, which I've heard and seen the prototypes from last year, and this is a big change from what I saw last year. It keeps getting better and better. This uses a piezoelectric diaphragm. It's this insane flat-looking rectangular ribbon type driver, but they did some innovative stuff with mounting the driver, the transducer, to the chassis to energize the actual chassis as well. So what's interesting is even though it doesn't have a ton of bass, it's a pretty neutral presentation with good sub-bass extension. The sub-bass that it produces actually makes the chassis resonate and kind of vibrate a little bit. So it has this cool home theater subwoofer type effect. It's very tactile without over boosting the bass in the mids and making things sound too muddy. It is a brighter, highly resolving headphone. So if you want something that's just a total unique presentation that's really analytical, this is a really fun listen. Another crazy thing about it is it's stupid light. Like I'd imagine under 300 grams. So I might actually be reviewing this because I didn't expect to like it as much as I did, being it's such a new design. So kudos to them. I just wanted to talk about it to put on your radar because it's worth looking into. And it's just something I've never heard before. So ZMF is typically launching at least one new headphone a year, or at least it feels that way. And today's new launch is the ZMF Tessadera, which is an open back planar magnetic headphone. It kind of skirts the line in pricing between the Ori 3 and the Caldera Open, which I've reviewed both of and really enjoyed. This is a really unique tuning, and honestly, I quite like it. So the Tessadera is a little bit more vocal forward and a little bit less airy than the Caldera, and it has a little bit more bass compared to the Caldera as well. It's just boosted a little bit to sound a little bit more lush, but it's not quite as excited sounding as the ORI-3. So even though they're all kind of comparable in price ranges in terms of steps and where they go up, they do have their own unique presentation. I think this has a little bit more of an intimate vocal forward listen, which is pretty fun. A lot of the people that have listened to this have said they enjoyed the sound as well. So it's always good to see that a unique tuning is still landing well with people that are listening to this stuff. So I will be covering the Tessadera soon. I actually received one right before leaving for CanJam, but I wanted to hear it on some pretty fun amps because the ZMF room is always loaded with good kits at CanJam, and it's good to try things out. So more to come on this guy. Conveniently next door to the ZMF room was Opus Audio, which I've worked with them in the past, including reviewing the Merlin DAC recently. So these are two new headphones coming out from SJY that will be available at Opus Audio. They have a new open back planar magnetic headphone that I'll be reviewing, which has similar tuning to like the HE1000 SE from HiFiMan or the Aria Stealth if you're used to that. But the 1 to 2K region is pushed forward a little bit more. Really good dynamics and snappiness to it, and obviously being a big open back planar, the sub-bass bass extension is quite good as well. This guy is an interesting one though. This is an E-Stat that has good bass, like a decent amount, and it doesn't have some of the drawbacks that I typically have with E-Stats because of that. So really good resolution and technicality, and he didn't push the treble too hot either. So it doesn't sound too bright or fatiguing to listen to. This is just like one guy making his drivers in his own shop, and he's producing some banger of a product. So I'm excited to cover these more in depth in a future review, so keep an eye on that. But I wanted to put these on your radar in the meantime. This doesn't have a name yet, the E-Stat. So maybe if Jeff's watching this, shoot a comment below. What would you call a black square E-Stat? Maybe something with E or power in it because of what it is, but get creative, but keep it appropriate. So another IEM I checked out was from Meze Audio. This is, I believe it's the Astru. I'll hopefully understand how to say it properly later. But this is a flagship IEM, single dynamic driver on the premium side of things because they made a lot of improvements over the more affordable Alba. So this has been a pretty slick IEM. I did some demoing against the Alba, and there is a noticeable improvement in resolution, bass tactility. It's all the improvements that you want from something as good as the Alba at a lower price range. So I'll be covering this in more detail down the road, but I can at least confirm on early listening that the improvements are noticeable. It's not just a more expensive IEM as a single DD. So they're definitely onto something with the tuning and performance side. And they also kept a lot of the good ergonomics that I liked on the Alba, being very comfortable. Metal shell adds a little bit of weight to it, but it's a good weight. It feels very high in quality, and I like the metallic finish. So pretty solid stuff. More to come on this guy. All right, so if this headphone looks familiar, that's because it kind of is. But this is the OA2, something that's coming out really soon that I am going to be getting my hands on. This is from Grell, and I stopped over the Deconi booth to listen to this guy. So it is a very unique headphone in terms of imaging and driver placement. It's designed from Axel Grell, the legendary engineer that made the HD800S from Sennheiser. So very unique tuning. However, the difference versus the one, at least on early impressions and listening, is there's noticeably less bass. The bass is a little bit thinner and leaner, and I think it creates an even wider imaging effect. It might not have that same like bass slam and immersion that the one has, and I think this might better suit some people's tastes out there. So in the upcoming review where I talk about this, I'll be comparing it to the one, but it's worth pointing out that even though it looks similar, this is quite a different sounding headphone. So there's an amp I tried that I can't even hold here because I don't want to embarrass myself in public. It weighs quite a bit and it's quite large. And that's the new WA12 Zircon from Woo Audio. Woo is known for tube amps, like insane performing tube amps that has kind of a really strong following due to their looks and overall sound quality and performance. So with this one, the designers or engineers at Woo Audio, they've been asked about, can we make a solid state amp that has some of the characteristics of tubes? Or how can I find a solid state amp that sounds like a tube amp? So this is what they designed this amp to be. And in addition to doing that and adding some coloration and warmth to the sound, they also changed the power supply system. So it's a completely power isolated or galvanically isolated power supply. It has its own built-in battery. So you can go up to 16 hours or 16 plus on a single charge on one straight listen, which hopefully you got up and walked around in that time frame. But it also has a normal dedicated power supply. So I'm not sure if I'll be able to review this one day. It's kind of an extreme performer, but it was interesting that they are able to kind of recreate some of the magic that they got in their tube amps before without actually having tubes. So pretty cool. I just wanted to put on your radar to research because the battery system alone is unique, and that kind of coloration and performance is kind of fun as well. So kudos to Woo for kind of creating something new and exciting. Okay, so that wraps up the video of CanJam New York 2026. Huge thanks again to Bloom Audio for making this possible. And just because I didn't talk about it in this video doesn't mean the product wasn't good or exciting. So I just picked out some things that stood out to me that I was excited to share with you all. If you want to see even more coverage of CanJam, I would just search for CanJam New York 26 on YouTube or editorial stuff and see what other people talked about, because frankly, there's a lot of really good stuff here. And take a look at the CanJam website to see if there's a show coming up in your area, so maybe you can attend one for yourself. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you at the next one. See ya.